Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Dominica is. This is the lion's voice.
Then the government gets scared and them frame I up. They were targeting I for a couple of years. You know, robbing I, sticking I up, doing different things, raiding my house, searching my yard, till eventually in 1974 they framed I up for the murder of a white tourist.
Okay.
And the system sentenced I to hang, and I stayed in jail 5.5 years before I escaped. I escaped before the hurricane. The hurricane just came to legalize I. By tomorrow, I have to go into Addis Ababa to renew my status. Every 5 years, we have to pay a substantial amount of money, which is a very contentious matter. We shouldn't, in this day and age, have. Right now, when we first started, it was just 200 US, which was about 10,000 birr. Now it is 300 US, and they have devalued the birr. So now it's almost 24,000 birr you have to find. Wow. Which is very, very, very difficult to raise that amount of money just to be stayed into Ethiopia. And I'm here already 30 years. So the government is very inconsiderate in that manner. And I have to make more representation.
Did they get the residents that they just recently gave to the ones in Shashamane? Was I one of the recipients?
Yeah, I was the first one I was the first one to get it because before I had an investment license, so I used that advantage, and I was the first one to receive that 5 year. So after the 5 years, you can apply for citizenship through having a practicing herbal practitioner. The people and them have come to I in a oneness because a lot of them get sick, illnesses that doctors cannot cure, and I've been able through herbal treatment to bring them back, to take care of them, to heal their babies when they get burned, to cure them from cancer, from high blood pressure, diabetes, etc. From, you know, whatever illness that's using the natural means. I've been able to. I use especially myrrh. It's the strongest antibacterial agent in the herbal kingdom. So I use it especially for common illnesses like Georgia and amoebic dysentery. It's the most powerful remedy for that. And then I also use crystallized aloes. You cut the bottom of the aloes and you allow it to drain down. When it drain down, it becomes black. You dry that in the sun, come like a crystallized aloes. You pong it down, turn it into a powder, and then you mix it up with water. It's a master to help clear the stomach of any kind of things that poison in the body system. So we use that to clear out any kind of illnesses that the person might have on their skin or in their body or any internal dysfunction. We use that aloes to clean them out. We also use it to lower high blood pressure, to lower sugar. And these medicines are proved simple but very effective. And then we use artemisia for malaria. So these are the stress that we try to put as the emphasis in which we have integrated it for our people on that level. When I first came here, when I made a proper assessment, at that time, the youth and them in this junior secondary school especially, they had no facilities. A lot of them were still on the trees being educated. There were no desks. There were not sufficient school rooms because these things had been neglected. So like I told you before, we had come as a federation to build a vocational training center, and that did not come true. When the brother called Ras Tafari came to Ethiopia and he reasoned if I show what are the needs that we see amongst us. I show him His Majesty say all who love Ethiopia build schools. So when we went into the junior secondary school, we decided to commit ourselves to assist in organizing the community and to build a 4-classroom structure. So we financed most of the works. We got the community to bring in wood and different things and to mix the chica and different things like that to give certain amount of labor. And then we sponsored the buying of the cement and all the works and paying up the workers. And in one primary school, they called the Edomada, which was originally first built by the Federation in the early days. We built a 4-classroom structure there. And then in another school in the center of the town called Bugagudina, we also built a 3-classroom structure and helped them to complete the building of a library. So in that early day period, to I and I, that was the emphasis. You need to make sure that the youth and them gets some basic education within the system. So the first thing we wanted to know, if man want to come home, is there land available that we could survive? Because 1 or 2 brothers came with the second time I returned to Ethiopia to suss it out. But when he came in, the reality was there is no land that we could really plant and be free up. Even here right now, you can't plant a ganja tree and be safe. They just give one of Cruz Hydra and 5 years jail for having a couple of trees in his hand and some seeds. So it is very repressive against I and I when it comes to our cultural practices. You know,
Yes.
they demonize ganja. The politicians, most of the youth and them in herb therapy, but the politicians and them subject to Babylon, trying and please Babylon, that have some draconian laws upon I and I. I can say certain times, like a couple of years ago, certain politicians had stirred up a certain vibes against the Amara people and all who in sympathy with them. This is still going on to a certain level because there's still a war going on in the north. There's in different proportions. That is where the government fighting against the militia up in Amara region. But they are quite resolute, so they will have to find some peaceful arrangement. But this is disgraceful because they were the most effective fighting force to keep up the TPLF and keep the government in power, but now they switch on them. But it's politics, you know, we know those things happen in life.
Yes.
But the reality is a couple of years ago, they had raised up that strike where they was burning everything red, gold, and green. So they came and they tried to tackle the Bingi and they burned down Sister Alma's. She had a hotel, Lily of the Valley Hotel. They had burned it down and destroyed everything inside of it and attacked some of I and I homes and things like that. But it was pacified sufficiently, and we have dealt with it. We have overcome it. They came recently. They broke down part of our tabernacle, which now we are now repairing. So no mind what them do, we're still there. But they did that in preference to diverting a road line upon I and I. But now reality of life that they come back and on the other side where they get bribed not to enter, now they are forced to enter. For the federal government take over now. So we've been for a little bit of them trials and tribulation, but we have sustained those things, you know. Good thing, before I go through all the tribulation in Dominica, none of those things are really disturbed by because what I faced in DA was worse than everything that they tried to do to us. So there's nothing new under the sun. You just have to hold your faith and be strong. And Selassie will always show you that I and I will conquer them eventually. They will have to humble to I and I. So we persist, you know. Marcus Garvey said, kill your enemy with love, you know.
Gonna just go straight into the vibration.
Yeah.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Come be a part of history and experience the sharing of wisdom from some of the most brilliant thought leaders in our community. Come see Muda Baruka, Styles P, Nori Muhammad, Lawrence Haja, Dr. Dorothy Holly, Dejaz Mach Kwasi, Deborah Hines, and Midwife Asasia impart their wisdom at Groundings with My Brothers and Sisters, a holistic health conference. A plant-based breakfast and lunch are included. Looking forward to seeing you there.
But the Almighty has manifested himself in physical form and was born as Lich Tafari Makonnen. Through hard work and diligence he attained the title of the Chas Match. When he fought in many wars and was crowned as Ras. By the will of the people he was given the title of Negos. And by destiny, no goose and a gas, the King of Kings. I and I are his children. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we are gonna give Jah thanks and praise. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we gonna free our mental slave. One day we are gonna live better. Be that listen, I see I speech and overstand every letter. One day we are gonna
Yes, family, greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an artist, I'm an author, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk. Welcome to Lion Talk and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Today we have an extra special guest. You can already see we dash with housekeeping everything. We have a direct line to the mountains of Zion, and we have one of our legendary Ras Tafari brethren with us here today. We have some challenges with the Wi-Fi. That is why we're skipping all of the regular formalities and getting straight into the story. I want to introduce to the global Rastafari Pan-African family, Ras Kabinda. Welcome, Ras Kabinda, to the Lion Voice Network.
Kadamawi Haile Selassie, holy name be praised. Give thanks, Rastaman. Give thanks.
And give thanks for the eye coming on this interview. I'm going to be calling this episode The Legend of Desmond Trotter, because when I was a young Ras coming into the movement, I heard this story about a Rastafari brethren who was unjustly lock up, and a hurricane came and blow down the prison, and him go straight to Zion. And you just hear these things, and you go about your life, and then you hear it again, and you think it's so fantastical, only to then learn that this is not a fantasy. This is a real testimony. And I want the eye to, before we get there, I want the eye to just introduce the eye self, where the eye was born, and take us through your journey to Rastafari. What caused the eye to embrace His Imperial Majesty Kadamawi Haile Selassie I, Ivinity. Just take us from that journey. Where were you born, and the journey to Rastafari?
Haile Selassie. I was born in a small Caribbean island. That is, the name of the island is called Waitikubuli, but the Babylonian system call it Dominica. But the original name of the Caribbean Indians is Waitikubuli. I grew up there as a young man, growing up in stages of life, and at an early age get involved in the struggle. I was more involved on a political level. I was a political activist with different movements that we organize ourselves in to offer an alternative to the colonial, neo-colonial setup. I used to be like an author like myself. I used to print a lot of magazines together with different brothers called Black Crime, Manico Movement, etc. We used to move with a movement of New Dominica. We were active in the area of political consciousness. We were very closely affiliated with Brother Morris Bishop in Grenada, and we had that close linkage between ones and ones. He was the one who eventually came and was my lawyer at the time when they framed me up and charged me for murder. They set I up for murder because as a youth, I started in the struggle very early, 16 years. But by the time I was 19 years, we had organized the ghetto, Organized the ghetto in Dominica, 16 families that own most of the land in the country. So our struggle was mostly to organize the workers on those lands and try to organize them and make them recognize well it's time for collective ownership, So we took to the hills as young men seeking an alternative in life. In the early days, we was highly influenced by the Cuban Revolution and the struggle of the brothers and sisters in Southern Africa, especially men like Samora Machel, and these were the ones and ones we were more following in their movements, and the progressive leaders like Julius Nyeri and Nkrumah, etc. And as we grow in life, then we come to the fullness of His Majesty, and we start to understand the fullness of life and his stance and how the way he organized African unity, etc. And so the commonality in I and I struggle. But we had organized in Dominica to a level where all the ghetto youth and them was understanding what I was projecting. We were emphasizing a return to the land to make sure that we establish self-sufficiency, food self-sufficiency as the first fundamental in our liberty as an African people. So we were pushing that hard, and the youth and them was responding because Dominica is very young.
What year are we talking about? What year are we talking about when all of this is
1970. No, we're talking about between 1965 going on to 70. No, let me mixing it up. Between 1970 and 71 was them areas where we was more active, because I went into jail in 1974.
Okay.
Remember I started the struggle at 16, and at 1970, influenced by the movements in Trinidad and Tobago at the time of the social uprising in Trinidad. And we was following that up, and we formed a simple link with Morris Bishop in Grenada. We had close links with Walter Rodney in Guyana. And together we were formulating different strategies of liberation from the neo-colonial rule and a more socialist-oriented system of governance. So it was during those period of time. So at first I used to work with the movement for New Dominica, which was more socialist-oriented. And then gradually after 2-3 years, then I more moved into what we call the Manico movement, which was more like a guerrilla movement, where we recognize that in order to change the system, we might have to use other ways and means other than the normal format. So we had grown up with that levels where we recognize the need for organizing the ghetto, enlightening them in African consciousness, teaching them of the writings and the works of His Majesty, of Kiwan Nkrumah, Julius Nyeri, Samora Machel, Amilcar Cabral, because such information was greatly hidden. So we made it our task. So I used to print little newsletters and distribute it in the ghetto to raise the consciousness. So for our different activities, then the government gets scared and them frame I up. They were targeting I for a couple of years. Robbing I, sticking I up, doing different things, raiding my house, searching my yard, till eventually in 1974 they framed I up for the murder of a white tourist.
Okay.
And the system sentenced I to hang, and I stayed in jail 5.5 years before I escaped. I escaped before the hurricane. The hurricane just came to legalize I. But we escaped before the hurricane because all the time I was in the jail, I continued writing. And through different writings and the works of the other brothers and sisters on the outside, there was a social upheaval in the country where the corruption had reached such a level that everyone was difficult escape. So everybody went on strike.
Stick a pin. I can't see the eye face. You have to keep your face in the camera there. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Yeah, man. Just remember to look into the camera so that we can see the eye.
Yeah. It was under the regime of Patrick John. He was the Prime Minister at the time. He was the one who passed the Dread Act. Under the Dread Act, you could shoot and kill a Rasta man anywhere you meet him, no case called. Under that act, they jailed 120 of I&I between 1974 and 1979. And when they sentenced I to hang, the next day they passed the Dread Act. And under that law, 120 young brothers and sisters were locked up because they lost any man with dreadlocks, 9 months in jail. Any kind of sympathetic appearance looking like an African, 9 months in jail. And at the same time, you could shoot and kill any Rasta man you see without fear of any reprisal. So under that law, 120 of I were jailed.
How many brethren were killed? Do we know how many brethren were killed?
Well, during that time, 120 were in prison, and about 27 of I were killed in cold blood in the mountain and in villages.
Wow.
They were a death squad supplied by the British Army. At that time, the British was true, and it was a death squad, and they were vicious against I. So after they convicted after they sent I in the jail from 74 to 79, I remained in the jail until I managed to escape. When I escaped, a little after that, 2-3 weeks after that, Hurricane David came and it mashed up the jail. So in mashing up the jail, it legalized I, because there is no place to put I no more. And after negotiation, through the whole society knew I was an innocent man. The president of the country, he declared I a free man and pardoned I. And then I returned back into the hills and built back up the struggle. We formed different movements, Unity of Ras Tafari, Hydran, and then we built up the movements sufficiently that we gained respect. For 2 years, virtually from 1979 to 1981, we had total freedom. We virtually ruled Dominica. We had radio program, everything. We were fully, highly regarded and respected. But in 1981, the CIA set up elections and they put one Eugenia Charles in power. Together with Tom Adams in Barbados and Hugh Scherer in Jamaica, they formed an unholy alliance. And they ganged up with the CIA and they terrorized I. They passed a terrorist law in Dominica to replace the Dread Act, which was worse than the Terrorist Act. During that period of time, 1981 to 1985, an next 24 of I get killed, shot and killed in the hills. And with the terrorist squad, it was a death squad. Fully funded by this time by the CIA. And all they did was they were sponsored, they were fed and supplied, drunken, and sent in the bush to hunt I down. So it was a bitter struggle. During that period of time, some of I had to resort to armed struggle to eventually get them to sign a peace treaty. So that is just some of the realities. But during that period of time, certain incidents took place to Grenada during the time of the Grenada Revolution. I told you before, Maurice Bishop was the only lawyer who came to Dominica to represent I when they charged I for murder. They deported him the next day after they sentenced I to hang. But after I escaped from jail, then I went to Grenada for a little time and ground myself and built back myself, and I stayed there for a period of time, and then I returned to DA when I was a little stronger. But when I returned to DA, it was the same fire going on. The terrorists and the death squad was on the full rampage, and at the same time, they killed brothers close to I dwellings in the mountain. And when they did that now, it was a man they called Honeychurch, together with a couple of the death squad. They just come up in the hills and in cold blood, they just kill one of our brethren in his home, a 19-year-old youth. So at that time, some of the other brothers, we took a man called Honeychurch into the mountain as ransom and informed the government that unless they don't stop them, unwarranted killings of I in the mountain, we have this one. And if you allow stop the law, we will deal with him otherwise. But unfortunately, him was a British major, and somehow he got away and he killed one of the brothers and them. So in so doing, the brothers and them had no choice than to enact justice. So during that period, after that period of time, then I returned to Grenada a second time to help build up the revolution then together with Morris and try to consolidate because a division had arisen. In the beginning of the Grenada Revolution, Ras Tafari was in control. We manned the army. But then afterwards, when the Cubans and them came in, the Cubans and them tried to minimize the influence of I as Rastafari as a vital ingredient in the revolutionary struggle and try to impose their Marxist-Leninist doctrine. This created a rift with the brothers and them, and certain attempt was made on some of the leaders because the ghetto watched it as though they were being betrayed. So when I re-entered Grenada, that was in about 1985, no, 1980, one of the 80s then. When I returned there, then I tried to reconcile the differences. And I held several meetings, Nyabingi gatherings throughout the length and breadth of Grenada. And I showed them that, yeah, it's possible I can be an intermediary. They had a particular brother called Nang Nang locked up in the jail.
Yes.
He was the head of the Revolution Guard at the time when I was there the first time. So I negotiated to get his release. And then we started to hold Nyabingi the length and breadth of Grenada, and we emphasized to Morris that a revolution without a culture cannot survive. And Rastafari is as relevant the culture for the revolution as any can be. That Marxist-Leninism is a doctrine that was suitable to an industrialized Europe. But that Rastafari, coming from a slave experience, Rastafari and the ideology and philosophy of Rastafari and the teachings of His Majesty and the African liberation struggle was more relevant to I, and therefore we should supposed to keep a close solidarity in that level. And was in agreement with I and humble himself and allowed I to come into his palace anytime, any day, and bring in Rastafari from all over the country to show them, well, yeah, we will stand in solidarity with the movements, but there must be straightforward talk. We cannot be undermining one another. We can't allow the Cuban and them to come in as though they are the initiators of the movements. They just come to help. At that time, they was building the international airport. Okay. So then it created a conflict till eventually they deported me out of Grenada. As the same forces that killed Morris deported Grenada because our influence. Morris was humbling to I based on our experience in Dominica and the struggles we had gone through. And he accepted I philosophy, and he was willing to host an international gathering of Rastafari in Grenada to solidify the revolution. So before that could manifest, the same forces that killed him came, arrested I and deported I out of Grenada and locked up Nang Nang and the other brothers.
Okay,
many years in the struggle.
I got some of that history from Ras Miguel Lorne. Shared some of that history, and also, all right, family, so we have challenges with the Wi-Fi. The brethren will come forward, but the item can see how powerful this episode is. This is one of those episodes that is a milestone marker. I heard that the brethren had been in the jail and the hurricane come blow down the jail. The history is different, but it's not much different, you know what I mean? So this is why the Lions have to tell our own story. This is the platform where we are reaching out to these legendary brethren and sisters while they are still with I, so that we can hear directly from them. How many ones knew that there were armed struggle in the Caribbean that brethren had to fight just to maintain their way of life and to stop themselves from being murdered? We don't talk about the Dread Act. What a wicked act. We talk about Coral Garden Massacre, rightly so, but just know in Dominica, There was the Dread Act, which was so terrible. All right, Brethren, I was just saying that I got some of this history from Ras Miguel Lorne and from Ras Sekou.
Tafari.
Tafari. So the guy is filling in some key components, and I would tell everyone to go and watch those episodes with Ras Miguel and Ras Sekou, who also gives some other parts of this history, because this is a history we don't talk about enough as part of the Rastafari Caribbean Pan-African connection that was taking place in the 70s and the 80s. So from I was deported from Grenada. What awaited you in Dominica? Isis? All right. As I said, we're dealing with some Wi-Fi challenges. Technology. We are straight to Mount Zion. The brethren is calling us from Ethiopia. I first met Ras Kabinda when I went to Ethiopia in 2007 with I Queen, Brother John, and the late Sister Pauline, who has now transitioned. So really and truly, we have to just give thanks. And as we said, this is a legendary episode, legendary part of the journey of the Lion Voice Network, to hear this history from someone who has lived it.
Well, after the deportation from Grenada, I basically returned to Dominica. And at that time, most of my time I used to be spending up in the hills. But there was a case of one of our brothers who, during the early days of the struggle, under the Terrorist Act, the police and them was just shooting and indiscriminately. Cold-blooded murder was taking place.
And give the year again. What year was this happening?
That was in the mid-1980s.
Okay.
Because I left after, between 79 and 81, there was a kind of freedom in the land. And after 81, when they set up the election, Eugenia come in power, then it was during that period of time.
Okay.
So there were white advisors, white police instructors from England, who together with the death squad was made up of a set of ghetto men from India, who used to come. Their only work was to come and terrorize us in the mountain, run us down in the mountain. They were fully sponsored by the CIA. Okay. So during that period of time, they made a raid on the estate of one Honeychurch, Ted Honeychurch. He was a expatriate, a white man from England, maybe an ex-major. So during that time, they had some of the youths and them who were the children of the elders who worked on the estate for several years. So on the little plots of land that they had given them to hold them attached to the estate, their sons and them growing up now as Farai were working those lands and surviving off their labor. But the white man, he did not agree to that. He found that, well, if they don't want to work for him, they shouldn't be there. So he called up the death squad. The death squad come up in the mountain, just not too far from where I was based in the hills, to a place called Babia, in the heights of Giro there. And they shot one of our youth and them in cold-blooded murder. Two of the youth and them, they killed them in cold-blooded murder inside of their parents' little shack. So when that happened, it created a turmoil. So the one who was responsible for calling the police, some of the other brothers and them arrested him and brought him up in the hills and gave a declaration to the Prime Minister, Eugenia Charles, that unless they don't stop the killing of I indiscriminately, then him is I hostage. But during that period of time, certain things take place, and he killed one of I youths and them. Wow. So the rest of the youth and them were with him. they executed judgment upon him. So that created a whole vibe because he was like an ex-British major and thing like that, a very strong colonial figure. So it created a whole turmoil in the land and searching and thing like that. Eventually, they charged one of the brothers and them who had get injured, who in running for the hills had fallen down in precipice and damaged himself. And then he got injured, and when he sought medical attention, they ended up charging him. They ended up charging him for murder. So in the first case in Dominica, he lost the appeal. He lost the case. We went to the Caribbean Court of Appeal. He lost the appeal. We went to Privy Council. Therefore, we had no other choice to save him, to go to the Privy Council. So during that period of time, I haven't been the only one who's gone through the experience of facing capital punishment, etc. I had to arrangements. I went to Guadeloupe and to Martinique in particular. And while out there, I was able to raise certain funding. At that time, a Nigerian playwright, Wole Soyinka, was also doing a workshop in.
Hold on, yeah, I'm muted. You have to unmute your mic. Are you getting a phone call? Is that what's happening? I'm not hearing the eye again.
When you say Wole Soyinka, after he had assisted I and I, like I said, then I went to England. And in England, I was able to raise funds working together with the Ethiopian World Federation, etc., to raise enough funds to bring the brother's case to the Privy Council. And the Privy Council, they didn't give an immediate result. We had to wait a couple of months. So during that period of time, I went to Zimbabwe and stayed in Zimbabwe. I went together with a brother called Ras Moya and a sister called Sister Sadie and another sister. We went to Zimbabwe as a first stage to see if we could set a foundation in Africa. So I stayed in Zimbabwe a couple of months, about 4 months, before we got the decision of the Privy Council that rejected the appeal. So I had to leave Zimbabwe and return to England, raise up our next funds and return to the Caribbean, to Dominica, to lodge a prerogative of mercy on behalf of the brother. And we were able to lodge the prerogative of mercy and submitted it to the Attorney General and to the Prime Minister and them, showing them, well, there was enough grounds because the brother had spent a good amount of time in jail, almost 19 years he had been there in jail. So we lodged that prerogative of mercy, and then we followed up certain steps. It was a first stage. Once you lodge the appeal, then they kind of slow down their intention. And then we pursued other matters. I stayed in Dominica for a while, and then I returned to England after a period of time. Yeah, somebody's sitting across. Yeah, I stayed in England for a period of time, and then I began to make movements. Otherwise, after I returned from Zimbabwe, I stayed in England for a while, and then in 1991, I went to Ethiopia. And I went to Ethiopia, I stayed there a couple of months, recognized the needs and requirements of survival. Then I returned to England, worked a little time, gained a little money, and in 1992, together with several other brothers and sisters, we came to Ethiopia for the centenary. And from that time thereafter, I returned to England once or twice in between, but from that time thereafter, I've been more based here in Ethiopia.
Okay, so it was the centenary trot that brought the idea.
No, I had come the year before.
Okay.
I had come the year before to assess the potential of what is what and assess what I needed to do in order to survive if I returned to Ethiopia. And in 92, during the time of the centenary trot, then I became part of it. Yeah, I was working in England, raise a little funds to try and make the passes, and it was sufficient. And then after that, I decided to hold the fire with the elders, because there was still Mama Ban, Papa Ba, Papa Daya, Brother Vin, they were still around. And as elders, they needed assistance, so I decided to stand with them and help protect them and defend the land that was granted. During that period of time, most of the land had already been taken back. There was only a very small portion remaining. 10, maybe 8, 9 hectares was the most that was around at that time. Now it is very minimal, almost non-existent.
Wow. I think the only real
Right
sign.
now, for Shashamane has become a city. Limitation as to the size of land you can have around your house. 500 square meter is the average given, the most actually given. Most other people, some people only have 140 square meter for their dwelling. Some of mine I have 500 square meter. Fortunately, I have a next piece of land I control about 1,000 square meter, where I plant food and try to maintain myself and maintain the biodiversity of the seeds that we have, recognizing that genes killing the world. So I analyze the only people who plant yellow corn. Ethiopians plant strictly white corn, hybrid corn, and every year they have to buy the seed, which in a couple of years will make them infertile, because if you planting a seed that you can't replant, then just know you yourself will be infertile.
Wow.
So we try to maintain the passage of time. Since I've been there 30 years now, every year I plant and I reap and I hold my seeds and praying for the day that we can get more land. That was I looking out for Ras Tafari to come as a collective, and we go and acquire land, go negotiate with the government, whether as an investor or which we require 200,000 US. It's a matter of pooling resources together. And then we could go anywhere in Ethiopia and seek more land. Because right now here in Shashamane, there is no land for agricultural development. For us to survive as a nation, we have to be food self-sufficient. And we have to have enough input that we could run agro-industries. That is our form of survival. That is how we have survived here over a period of time. We have worked together with different brothers, and up now we still have an agro-industry we have set up that's, process black seed oil, etc., and do little dehydration, and we uphold herbal medicine. We promote it very strongly. It's one of the things, the emphasis that we'd like to build upon. What is lacking here in Ethiopia is there's a lack of enthusiasm and a lack of willingness and commitment. By ones and ones, they sing a lot about Ethiopia and Haile Selassie the first, but they're not putting no input into developing anything here in Ethiopia that could sustain the repatriation movement, because here's not a bed of roses. Nobody not give you nothing. You have to work blood, sweat, and tears, man, and try to raise yourself. I'm 70 years of age, and I'm still in the field working every day to keep myself alive, because that's the reality of the times that we live in. You understand? That is the dynamics that exist here. So we need to be setting up industries that we can maintain all of ourselves who coming home. If we have some land, then we can plant food, plant cash crops, we can plant edible oils and different things like that. We can do movements, build up ourselves. But here it's very limited now in Shashamane. A man might have a little shop, maybe one man have a chance, but a man might have a little restaurant, but the opportunity is really is land. That's why His Majesty gave us 500 hectares of land, because land is the basis of development. Without land, you can't build a nation. So all the talk, we have to bring things into reality.
So
that is the level that we want to reach. If our representative lacking is that.
Stick a pin. I want to go forward to the first trod to Ethiopia. The continent is massive. Why did I choose Ethiopia of all of the countries, and what was that first time stepping on the continent? Describe that.
Well, remember I told you I had gone to Zimbabwe before.
Oh yes.
Me had overstand in the fullness. No apartheid had a diverse effect upon the minds of our people. When I went down south and I recognized there was certain.
Is that the iPhone?
Influence the apartheid system upon it. Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason that I chose to come to Shashamane is through we know about the land grant that was given. And through I was working in the Ethiopian World Federation to help me to raise the funds to bring the brother's case to the Privy Council. Then I began getting information from Ras Tafari. When I was in England, he came from Ethiopia. He had made certain trips out there. So he came and we used to reason together. We had become very close. So that way, I decided to come and check it out because I hear His Majesty Haile Selassie the first, and we hear a lot about Ethiopia, but we are very ignorant of the actual reality of what is taking place. But we knew of its historical significance from ancient times. So I decided to come into Ethiopia. And like I said, when I come in mostly first to come check the elders, their mama, Papa Daya, hear their story, and see their reality and in what way we could assist them. But as the Federation, we used to be constantly raising funds towards their benefits, etc. So that was my main input in coming to Ethiopia, to really vibes it out and see the reality. There was actually any land available that we could come over and survive off the land, because where I come from in Dominica, we have almost 100 hectares of land. So most of our Ras Tafari grew up in the mountain. Most of us have land somewhere, either from our parents, grandparents, or we just conquer land in the mountain. So the first thing we wanted to know, if man want to come home, is there land available that we could survive? Because one or two brothers came with I. The second time I returned to Ethiopia to suss it out. But when he came in, the reality was there is no land that we could really plant and be free up. Even here right now, you can't plant a ganja tree and be safe. They just give one of close hydrant 5 jail for having a couple of trees in his hand and some seeds. So it is very repressive against I when it comes to our cultural practices. They demonize ganja. The politicians, most of the youth and them in herb therapy, but the politicians and them subject to Babylon, trying and please Babylon, that have some draconian laws upon I. But I survived. I mostly survived. When I first came here with the Federation, was to build a vocational training center to teach essential life skills. And we had negotiated with the government to certain levels and I'd get fullness of it. But some of the funds that was raised to initiate the program got bamboozled by those who had this money. Some of the brothers in America at that time, who was the treasurer and what have you, one of them had some little fault within himself, and that money was bamboozled. We never get a chance to have initiated it. So that was a major setback. So in place of that, then I Ras Tafari, together with some brothers from Bermuda called Ras Tafari, we decided to create our own institute, HIM Institute of Higher Studies and Agro-Industry, where we was trying to emphasize more on Afrocentric education for the youths and agro-industrial development, more, dehydrating fruits and things like that, packaging medicinal herbs and different things, squeezing cane juice, making essential oils, different things of nature. So we created a company and we existed for about 10, 15 years until we couldn't meet the requirement of our past government that wanted to ensure that the amount of money that we had put in, saying that we would have invested, say we had put in 5 million at the time, but our records could only show an input of 1.5 million. So they say, well, we're supposed to have reached our capital statement after a certain period of time, and for we didn't reach that requirement, then they broke us down. But now with the status that we have, you can get a local license now, and so the company now has reverted. We are still here together, reverted into certain levels of local production. I'm not a daily active part of it. I'm more in the fields working right now. But over the next couple of months, I might most probably get more deeply involved as the dry season come up. Now I more try to ensure that we have certain, like now, so sorrel is one of our cash crops. So that right now is a good time to transplant them. So that's what my emphasis is more now, trying to make sure we have at least a couple of 100 trees in the ground. So within the next few months, because it's an essential cash crop for I&I, because I&I alone basically have it, and there's a demand for it throughout the supermarkets, etc. And even in the community.
So the eye has survived by farming all of the time that the eye has been in Ethiopia?
Yeah, mostly by that, through farming, through little trading in different clothes. Sometimes I make some Ras Tafari clothes, and when certain brothers come to give it to them, carry out and sell. And my personal family in Dominica, they assist a lot. Because a couple of times I have broken down under the stress of work, sometimes through overwork. The body's had given up on I a couple of times. But now I am all right, but I'm still affected by deep vein thrombosis in the lower part of my right foot.
Okay.
So sometimes it gives me a little problem. It's almost constant because it retards my circulation. But you say I have deep vein, they say I have venous insufficiency. The valves in the veins of the foot throughout all the years standing and working. Some of them are no longer functional. So it creates complications, and a little bruise I get on the foot, it takes a very long time to heal. But I simply put herbs on it, poultices, and until it.
As I try to practice some yoga to reinvigorate the lower body. Goody.
Yeah. Me do certain yoga movements to help complement it, to relax the foot and to try build it.
When your foot heals, the eye should really try to do that daily to keep the circulation. You know, they have special yoga routines for the lower body to increase the circulation. You can find them on YouTube.
I'm very active in the field.
Yes.
I'm very active in the field. So
but the key is the
on the move. I don't stay on. Whenever I'm in the yard on my own.
Yes, the key is not just the movement, but stretching and breathing. You know, and being intentional about stretching.
Yeah.
And breathing and building that mobility.
Yeah, me have knowledge of those things, and me practice them too. It's how I keep I still functional.
Give thanks, because the eye story, I'm thinking this is a movie because it's so powerful. There's so many different phases. As the eye mastered the language in Ethiopia, can the eye speak Amharic?
I can speak Amharic, but I am not really versed in writing much. I can speak it.
Okay, give thanks. And how difficult was it for the eye to acquire the language, and how long did it take?
No, it doesn't take too long. When I first come here, I used to study the books, study the vocabulary, the grammar, and it's an essential part of survival. So I picked it up sufficiently enough. I just haven't spent time to learn to write it, but I can speak it enough to get around, get a way through, move my way through. Yeah, but it would be good to learn to write it too. It's just that most times I'm more in the field working, so I don't really take time to sit down and pick it up. But
yes,
it's essential to pick up the language. Enough of the brothers can read it and have understanding of it.
And on my channel, we deal with the Rastafari family. I know that I has a family there in Ethiopia. What has it been like to integrate into Ethiopian culture and society?
Well, this is balanced to levels. There's that as far as, we have certain principles as regard what we eat and what we drink. So in the culture of Ethiopia, they are very meat-centered. In the Orthodox faith, they fast and hold 40-day fast, 80-day fast, but at the end of the fast, it will be a beastly harvest that will be taking place in both faiths, in Islam and in the Orthodox. So,
wow.
But to I and I, as far as I know, who have came from the sacrifice diet, then there's sometimes there'll be a clash of that culture, but when they come to respect you, and sometimes somebody in the overhanded.
Okay.
But basically, otherwise, everything is natural because we the same set of Ethiopian people. So as far as we have certain distinction among ourselves, but other than that, they blend in, and Through I've been a herbal practitioner for several years, I have healed people. So through that, it created a little bond within the villagers and the people around me. But a lot of them come to I when they have spent thousands with doctors and cannot be healed. And I make herbal medicine and heal them. And in the younger days, I was very much part of the community. I used to be sponsoring a couple of the youth and them in football fields and, you know, training them in football and having competition, giving them into social life. And I was building different schools too. I built a couple, not I personally, with the help of one brother called Ras Tafari from Bermuda. He was part of the first institute that we had formed. He was one of the main shareholders.
Yeah, the face is much clearer now. So continue to talk about the work in Ethiopia. What is it like integrating? Because I think one of the things that I really want to talk about on this channel is the reintegration process. Because we talk about repatriation, but we don't talk about what happens after you reach Africa. Because I say that on the ground, that's the front line. You know what I mean? In terms of right now, we're behind the lines. When we go home to Africa, that's where the real struggle for this identity start, because we're going into a land with ancient cultures, poverty, you know, wealth too. But we're going into societies that are familial based, you know, very intricate culturally, you know. So I want to, on this channel for our global Rastafari audience, really emphasize speaking to ones like the I about what is it like to reintegrate. Yes, repatriation, but what about the reintegration into Africa?
Well, when I first came here, when I made a proper assessment, at that time, the youth and them in this junior secondary school especially, they had no facilities. A lot of them were still on the trees being educated. There were no desks. There were not sufficient school rooms because these things had been neglected. So like I told you before, we had come as a federation to build a vocational training center, and that did not come true. When the brother called Ras Tafari came to Ethiopia and he reasoned if I show what are the needs that we see amongst us, I showed him His Majesty say all who love Ethiopia build schools. So when we went into the junior secondary school, we decided to commit ourselves to assist in organizing the community and to build a 4-classroom structure. So we financed most of the works. We got the community to bring in wood and different things and to mix the chica and different things like that to give certain amount of labor. And then we sponsored the buying of the cement and all the works and paying up the workers. And in one primary school they called the Edumada, which was originally first built by the Federation in the early days. We built a 4-classroom structure there. And then in another school in the center of the town called Bugagudina, we also built a 3-classroom structure and helped them to complete the building of a library. So in that early day period, to I and I, that was the emphasis. You need to make sure that the youth and them get some basic education within the system. So we did those works there as a beginning, and then we went into, like I said, we went into business afterwards as a HIM Institute, dealing in agro-industry. But we still persistent, even the Federation up to now, we still assist up and on in the same Edumada school, raise certain funds on the outside and come in and help them to assist to finish build up the kindergarten, different things like that. So we integrate to that levels on a practical sense. Yes. So in that way, the people actually see where your heart is, because you're coming from abroad and you don't really have no direct ties with them, but they see where you give commitment with plenty of their own, find it hard to contribute towards the furtherance of education for their own children. Okay. So in that regard, we relate it like that. And also, like I say, through having a practicing herbal practitioner, the people and them have come to I and I in a oneness, because a lot of them get sick. illnesses that doctors cannot cure, and I've been able through herbal treatment to bring them back, to take care of them, to heal their babies when they get burned, to cure them from cancer, from high blood pressure, diabetes, etc. From, whatever illness. Just using the natural means, I've been able to. I use especially myrrh. It's the strongest antibacterial agent in the herbal kingdom. So I use it especially for common illnesses like Georgia and amoebic dysentery. It's the most powerful remedy for that. And then I also use crystallized aloes. You cut the bottom of the aloes and you allow it to drain down. When it drain down, it becomes black. You dry that in the sun, come like a crystallized aloes. You pong it down, turn it into a powder, and then you mix it up with water. It's a master to help clear the stomach of any kind of things that poison in the body system. So we use that to clear out any kind of illnesses that people might have on their skin or in their body or any internal dysfunction. We use that aloes to clean them out. We also use it to lower high blood pressure, to lower sugar. And these medicines are proved simple but very effective. And then we use artemisia for malaria. So these are the stress that we try to put as the emphasis in which we have integrated it for our people on that level. Yes, I have a daughter and I have a sister there, the mother of my child. Yeah. We're still here together. So you just have to know yourself as a Rasta man. Yeah. So
is the Eye Queen, where in Ethiopia is the Eye Queen from?
She's from, originally her family is from Hara, but it's in Addis Ababa. I met her and she's been living up here in Shash since we've been together for a while.
Okay.
She has I built her own yard for her, so she lives in her own yard.
Okay.
And we balance it out. Yeah, we have one youth. Right now, I'm just about, by tomorrow, I have to go into Addis Ababa to renew my status. Every 5 years, we have to pay a substantial amount of money, which is a very contentious matter. We shouldn't, in this day and age, right now, when we first started, it was just 200 US, which was about 10,000 birr. Now it is 300 US, and they have devalued the birr. So now it's almost 24,000 birr you have to find. Wow. Which is very, very, very difficult to raise that amount of money just to be stayed into Ethiopia. And I'm here already 30 years. So the government is very inconsiderate in that manner. And I have to make more representative.
Did I get the residence that they just recently gave to the ones in Shashamane? Was I one of the recipients?
Yeah, I was the first one to get it, because before I had an investment license, so I used that advantage, and I was the first one to receive that 5 year. So after the 5 years, you can apply for citizenship.
Okay.
So you have to be fluent in a language, I believe, for you to get that criteria. But when I go down, I'll be questioning them, because I have served 5 years and I'm here 31 years. I should not be paying that amount of money to be working and living in Ethiopia. That is a bit hard.
Explain to the global family that whole process in terms of the granting of that recognition, why it was granted, because this is a global audience that will see this, and Ras Tafari from all over the world, as the land they want to go to. So I want the I, who has been there 30 plus years, to really give ones a practical reality today about Ethiopia. And the residency situation.
The residence permit that we have now acquired came after years of representation to the government, because most of us at that time were illegal. Most of us had gained legitimacy through becoming investors during the previous government. But then when they changed the rules of the investment, saying that you have to have a certain amount of money and we couldn't meet up to the required amount, then we were in limbo. For instance, I was 3 years illegal. It would have cost me almost 300,000 if I wanted to leave the country. So we were fighting to get that right to have a status in the country and to get legitimacy and amnesty for the time that we were here illegal. So after several years, under the one who is the director now of the World Health Organization, Tewodros, at that time he was the foreign minister, he was the one who brought us down into Addis, and then they agreed to it, and we had a reasoning with them, and they agreed to grant us those status, especially for those of us who had been here for more than 10 years. Now I think the time is a little less, but that was the first basis on which we were granted it. So it was over for 5 years, and at that time it was just 200, about a 10,000. First time it almost was just about a 5,000 birr, but now it is quite ridiculous because they have devalued the birr almost 82% in order for the government to get a loan from the IMF, which is total insanity. We can legalize the herb, get involved in the medical cannabis industry, and Ethiopia had the potential to raise 19 billion a year. Instead, they suppress the herb with a vicious cycle, and now you're begging the white man for money, and he put in such stringent regulations upon you. Just now, it might be social upheaval because everything, price of everything has skyrocketed when you devalue the birr by 82%. That means a total lack of economic sense. You're failing to recognize the options you have.
And that's strange because Ethiopia just joined BRICS, you know. So you would think
Yeah,
that
but
they would go ahead.
no, yeah, but they don't have no. It doesn't seem they have no backbone, and they're following some evangelical doctrine that turn them fool. Because all over Africa, in Malawi, in Zambia, in Botswana, in South, they're legalizing the herb and making industries all in the Caribbean and benefiting from the medical cannabis industry. Ethiopia have abundance of land and we can grow the baddest weed here in Ethiopia. But instead of that, they fight us down with a vicious cycle, which is almost unbelievable to be in Black Africa and to face that level of suppression for herb. It's shocking to I as a Rasta man who come from the Caribbean, where in Dominica on the land I have every other path you take is a ganja field. And here in Ethiopia, if I put one ganja field down, they want to lock me up. And locked me up for 5 years. They just give one of my closest agents 5 years jail for having a couple of trees in his yard.
Wow.
So this is the reality. So we need to campaign against those things. We need to bring it to the attention of the Ethiopian government that is an abuse of our human rights because United Nations has taken out cannabis from the Dangerous Drugs Act. So if you're part of United Nations, then it's illegal for you to be arresting and locking up people in jail for cannabis because it's no longer classified as a dangerous drug. So on what basis are they locking us up? So we need to have a different option, but we have to bring those things to the attention of the Ethiopian government.
Yeah, the right of the
But a
sacrament.
lot of people here, but a lot of Rasta man here, they don't have no backbone to stand up and talk out and say what is what. Those who go into the offices, they're scared to speak the truth. But we need from overseas, like all in America, to go on the American embassy and tell them, why is it that you're not considering involving the Rasta man in setting up of a medical cannabis industry? Because we are the ones most skilled in the work. The other farmers and them just copying from us. And to tell you the truth, it's the rural economy now, it's almost about 60 to 70% of the rural economy. The peasant farmers is ganja them plant, man. Is that how they survive? They only mark us because we become like a target on them and they think we have money. So sometimes when they lock you up, you have to pay hundreds of thousands of birr to get released. So these are the things that we face with. But we need to bring it to the attention. What is it? Why are we allowing ourselves to be so evangelically influenced that we don't have basic common sense? How in America it is legalized and to try to please America, you're suppressing us. And you're borrowing money from them at a rate that will cause social upheaval and disturb the whole economy of the country. So we need to bring certain intelligence to the attention. That is supposed to regard and overstand.
I would say that the prophecy teaches us that even Zion for a time, would go a certain way. So I need to build our economic strength so that we can have a proper voice, when we step to these ones and show that we can not only suggest, but we can implement what we bring to the table, So I really stress the agro business, I love that the I is engaged in. I think the ITAL standard is what we're working on in Jamaica, ITAL certification standard, where we, just like they have the kosher and the halal for the Muslim, we want an ITAL standard with a trademark that we can identify our goods, both produce and finished goods, and really create a niche on the continent in the realm of agro business and partner with ones like the I who can now get some investment. That's what we're really looking at now, is how we can empower ourselves globally with this ITAL standard and really, heirloom seeds, non-GMO. The world is going to need these things and cry for these things that I and I have been chanting for, our elders chanted for. So that I, as a forerunner, really a pioneer and on the right track. But just know that I and I working, and we have the I in mind. I don't know if the I remember when I met the I for the first time in 2007. Do I recall that time?
I cannot clearly remember, to be truthful.
Yes.
I cannot clearly remember. It's quite a while.
It's a while. But I visited Ethiopia that time. Bongo Rocky and Mama Baby, I were there at the big girls,
All right.
I was with my wife, and I was with my brethren, Brother John, and his queen, who just recently passed. Blessing to Mama Pauline, no longer with us. But I met the I, and I was so in awe, because I had heard the story of the I treading from Dominica, and to see the I in the flesh just there, working and think how the I has been a pillar there. What has it been like over the years to see the transition? You've probably seen thousands of brethren and sisters coming from the West that passed through Shashamane. What have you noticed about the evolution of the space and the condition of Ras Tafari in Shashamane?
Well, we have gone through certain trials and tribulation here. Most recently, some tribalistic vibes that arise where certain playing up.
Yes. We're almost finished. We have a good amount once I edit it. But I want to continue with the Ethiopia saga. So, what I was
referring to.
Yeah.
I can say, certain times, like a couple of years ago, certain politicians that stir up a certain vibes against the Amara people and all who in sympathy with them. This is still going on to a certain level because there's still a war going on in the north. There's in different proportion. That is where the government fighting against the militia up in Amara region. But they are quite resolute, so they will have to find some peaceful arrangement. But this is disgraceful because they were the most effective fighting force to keep up the TPLF and keep the government in power, but now they switch on them. But it's politics, we know those things happen in life. Yes, but the reality is, a couple of years ago, they had raised up that strike where they was burning everything red, gold, and green. So they came and they tried to tackle the Bingi, and they burned down Sister Alma's. She had a hotel, Lily of the Valley Hotel. They had burned it down and destroy everything inside of it and attack some of I&I homes and things like that. But it was pacified sufficiently, and we have dwelt with it. We have overcome it. They came recently. They broke down part of our tabernacle, which now we are repairing. So no mind what them do, we're still there. But they did that in preference to diverting a road line upon I&I. But now, reality of life, that they come back, and on the other side where they get bribed not to enter, now they are forced to enter. But the federal government take over now. So we've been for a little bit of them trials and tribulation, but we have sustained those things, Good thing, before I go through all the tribulation in Dominica, none of those things are really disturbed by, because what I faced in DA was worse than everything that they tried to do to us. So, there's nothing new under the sun. You just have to hold your faith and be strong. And Selassie will always show you that I&I will conquer them eventually. They will have to humble to I&I. So we persist, Marcus Garvey said, kill your enemy with love, So despite all what they do, we still relate to them on that very friendly basis. I still treat the ghetto free of charge. I go into any home, any yard, and look after anybody who is in need of assistance. And they know there's a lot of love within I&I, so that's what preserve you. Here in Ethiopia, take good behavior to be your savior. So you just have to wise and humble. You just have to humble and be tolerant.
So
You know,
during the
different
unrest,
mindset.
how was the eye treated by the local Oromo? Did that outreach that the eye did that preserve the eye from any affliction, or how the eyesight, the treatment during that unrest period?
Well, yeah, that give I certain levels of protection. If you come from the village, it will be hard for you to come and try and do any harm, because in the village, my reputation is quite upheld, you know. I work with the youth and them. Most of the youth and them now who is man grew up in my yard. You know, I used to have 2 football teams in the village, training them and coaching them, and I guide them into the ganja business and bring them self-sustainable and things of that nature. They see me build schools and things like that. So they know in the village I'm well known. So no one will really come and damage me as such personally. They tried to attack the Bingi, and I was there, so I stood up and make them know they can't enter. This is a place. So they were being stirred up, but my little daughter, my young daughter, she's the one who really faced them and tell them if they don't know who inside there, and them humble, because them grow together and she more fluent in the language and know them. Her mother is local, so has certain things. So we just let those things pass. We don't hold on to those things. You know, we're bigger than that. We much at a higher level, you know.
Give thanks, we have warriors like the eye who are there to guard the gate, you know, the angel with the flaming sword at the gates of the, you know, the Ibernacle, protecting from harm. So we give thanks the reality of the eye as a Asian being able to hold that level of protection. So is the Nyabingi compound secure right now? Because to I, in Shashamane, that to me is the only like remnant of the land grant when you go on the Bingi compound, you know, that is the Shashamane that I expected to see all over, but I only really saw it at the Bingi house and then maybe at the 12 tribe or the GRDC school. You know, you see that.
The Bingi house, right now we are rebuilding the walls that they destroyed. Okay. The walls that they came and destroyed, right now we are rebuilding them. So we are very close to finish now. We have adjusted the design of the tabernacle to meet the requirements. So there is no more disturbance as such upon I and I. So we're there. We are pursuant of everything. Ras Corey is the main man involved.
Yeah, big up Ras Corey for I.
Yeah, he's the main man. Yeah, he's the main man doing the works, directing the works. So he's there upon it. Right now, all today, he's there working.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get him on this program as well.
Yeah, Ras Corey. Yeah, he's very fundamental to the Bingi runnings, you know, most crucial. As a younger man, he come and meet I and he stand firm, you know, within I and make sure that everything within the Bingi is met and accounted for.
No, we give thanks for the brethren.
The only problem we have here with some of the reintegration, is the influence of the white Jesus and Mary within the Orthodox Church. In that regard, it is very shameful. In all the Orthodox Church, you see them following in their processions. There are big pictures of white Jesus and Mary in the 21st century. It is shocking to really watch and see the kind of levels of stupidity that they maintain amongst their own self, that they don't even recognize who they are as an African people, as an Ethiopian people. I and I are the forerunners of that faith that they call Christianity. And yet they bend down and they bow to that white Jesus and Mary. So they have that ingrained inferiority complex, and it is being highly perpetuated. It is not decreased. When I first came here, you could hardly see a white Jesus and Mary in the church. Now in every church you go, you can see where the indoctrination has taken place. Italy no longer have to invade. Rome conquer them for this white Jesus and Mary.
So that is something, you know, that I even recommended to the Chan group, is that I create an image of the black Yeshua, you know, because I think that is something that I and I as Rastafari should do across the continent, is disseminate
Yeah, it is
our
very crucial.
image, you know what I mean?
I and I
Because
conquer those I and I conquer those influence out in the West. But it's shocking to watch here in Ethiopia and observe the total subservience of the people to the white Jesus and Mary.
it's a plan.
They're totally blinded to the reality.
It's an attack. And I have to realize that we are under attack spiritually, physically, economically. You know, we are under attack. So I and I as the resistance, which is Rastafari, we are the heretical resistance force. You know, I look at Naya Bingi, all of these 12 tribes, Bobo Shanti, all of these orders are like special forces that have their own compartments or departments to serve, you know, or their functions to serve EWF for the Pan-African perspective. But I and I have a role to play, and part of that role is to preserve the spiritual integrity and the anciency of I and I people, you know, across the continent, and become that unity. So I really give thanks for the I. I'm showing that the example, you know, being an asset to your community, to the I community, with the herbal medicine, with the football programs. I think what's lacking now is if the I was able to access the adequate capital so that we could build, you know, a herbal academy, you know, an institute. We could build a football academy. You know, we have to institutionalize the works now under the Rastafari banner so that the people can see us, you know, on a level, because that's what the churches do. The churches come in with money and the Pentecostal, and they have their pictures of Jesus and they give them out for free. The same thing is in Ghana. In Ghana, the most popular picture is the white Jesus. Same way, His Majesty second, but the white Jesus is first. You know what I mean? So we from the West, I think that's part of our role, is to really create these things, because it's products and services, and that's they prey on, you know, the lower income people glad for the free picture, you know, so they will just take it and then they adapt it to themselves. So we have to come in as part of our outreach with the black, you know, and then we can also show the scriptures that support how we look like that too, you know, and we can have it on the image or posters, and we give them out around the continent. But give thanks. I want to just give thanks for the Ras Kabinda. This has really been a legendary reasoning for I and I. We don't even scratch the surface. But before we seal up, I want to know, how are Rastafari perceived overall in general in Ethiopia in the current climate? It's a highly tribalized climate. They disobeyed His Majesty and divided the country by tribal lines, which the empire should have never been divided on tribal lines. His Majesty commanded. So in this highly
the reality is,
yeah, how do they look at I and I?
And the reality is within the Oromia region, there is a certain antagonism against I and I as far as we project the red, green, and gold. Right now, it's mostly the government forces who are mostly Oromo are fighting a war up in the north. And the Fano are very resilient. They are defeating them. So I and I presence here is kind of a sort of antagonistic effect upon them. So you just have to be careful. You just have to know yourself and be wise, and just keep your projection within your eyes, and don't portray yourself too outwardly, so you might get in a trap with them. So it's just a matter of being wise to the time. The reality is that the tribal.
You can't wear red, gold, and green in Ethiopia right now. It's not safe to wear red, gold, and green.
Yeah, you can wear it. I have a jacket. I wear it all the time. But even in some of the Orthodox Church celebrations, in Addis Ababa they can't stop it. But sometimes up here in Shashamane, they don't allow them to fly the red, gold, and green. when they have in their church processions. Before it was allowed, but now sometimes they curtail it. Because there was a bloody occasion up here where the police and them shot 43 young Orthodox people, youth and them, who were protesting against the Oromization of the faith. They wanted to change the Giz into Oromia, and the youth and them didn't agree, and they shot them down. So you just have to wise, and there's no. This is prophetic time. This is Armageddon. You know, everything is coming to fulfillment. So you mustn't make nothing surprise you. You just have to wise, observe, and know the Father will protect you, and judgment is upon those who do the evil. So it's just a matter of time. No man can escape. Karma is set in creation.
Are Ethiopians and the Rastafari community there, are they them watching the situation in the Middle East? Have you been keeping up with that situation?
Well, generally there's no open abuse or nothing of that sort. We still communicate, we talk to the authorities, we deal with them accordingly to what we have to do. And no, it is not to do the politicians and them try to push it. The reality of survival, people don't have time with that right now to study about what you is and who you is, and man looking for food to eat and clothes to put on and to send their children to school, and things get tight now. So there's not no open abuse or nothing. So because I give a lot of them work, a lot of them work with I, so they get the benefit of I presence. So. And other than that, like I say, you just continue what you're doing. You just keep on the right path, and you're protected.
No, I was asking if the IDEM are keeping up with the situation in Israel and Gaza and all of those places. Is that part of the news there?
Yeah, we are quite.
Gideon.
Yeah, we are following that closely also. Yeah, we are watching every step. It's unbelievable to see the slaughter and the murder occurring every day, and the world is just standing by.
How does this fit into the prophecy? The I is an elder. I was talking to someone and they said, boy, the elders have been saying the Gideon has been coming from the 80s, and we keep hearing this sound. So, because I was telling ones that this is World War III. They are pushing
you have to remember the Europeans and the Arabs were the ones who perpetuated slavery upon us as an African people. So in the cyclic event of times and the karmatic fulfillment of prophecy, them have to.
Yeah. So I was saying.
Yeah, the prophecy, like we say, it was the Arabs and the Europeans who put. It was the Arabs and the Europeans who put I into slavery, and were merciless, and they have never sought to compensate I, nor sought any kind of reprieve. So within the karmatic times and prophecy, them have to create a war amongst themselves to virtually eliminate themselves, and that's what is happening in the Middle East right now. You see, they are prepared to kill one another without regard for human life. So them prophecy have to fulfill. That can maybe most probably will lead to I dominions once more in earth, because they will wipe out one another, because them deal with nuclear and they will use it because that's the reason that they make it. So we just have to wise, you keep out of their way and let's focus on what I is supposed to make sure we are preserving ourselves, because now there's all type of war against I as an African people. With the Gates boy coming up all this GMO throughout Africa, he's the one sponsoring it in every African country, and them puppet leaders and them are accepting it and allowing him to propagate this strategy upon I as a people. So it's very essential that we put a strong emphasis on maintaining I biodiversity and saving I original seeds and planting I own foods, because the devil in it is coming to you to try to control you by food.
The ITAL standard is coming. Ras Kabinda, I'm going to reason with the I offline. But the ITAL standard is coming, We're bringing together some of our best agronomists and agricultural specialists to put it together. So I will reason with the I offline. But it's coming. We are going to be deep
And
into food sovereignty.
what I need at Farai, what I need at Farai too, we need a little more solidarity. You see, as man advance in age, some of I need assistance, man, in certain ways in order to maintain the works. I can't do the same amount of work I used to do as a younger man, so now you have to employ local Ethiopians to help you with some of the labor. So it will be good for up and on a little solidarity, come meet some of I who are still on the front line holding the fire. Because this is the reality of the times. Because now
we need to invest in ones like the I. The I shouldn't have any problem with capital, and we have so many brethren and sisters in the West who have the currency that can invest, and the I is there who know the ground. We need to be channeling capital through the I to establish things for I and I family. So, because the I have the experience and the connection, and that's what I'm hoping to do with this platform, Ras Kabinda, is connect the dots, and bring light to the workers, because we have workers who are doing the work for decades like the I and not getting that strength and support. So I am really trying to rise the global family awareness so that we can wake up, because as you say, I'm a Gideon. We need to return home, come out of her, my people. The evil shall destroy the wicked, and the rebellious shall dwell in a dry land. So we need to go home to build. While they plan for war, we plan for peace. And I just want the leave us with some words for the family in the West, for the global family who is outside of Africa right now. What is your sound to them?
Well, my vibes to every African man, to every Rasta man out in the West, is that you have to see the Europeans are here. They are coming in numbers because here the wealth is. But if I don't return home, by the time we reach it might be too late. So the situation in Africa, intelligence and the spirit and the principles of Ras Tafari in order to save the nation and to save the race. Because there's a deliberate attempt of neo-colonialism. They're trying to sanctify it right now. And as far as with I stands, and the very principle stands, that we need to recognize we have a responsibility. This is not no game. They have a responsibility as a conscious African man to recognize that it's your duty to come home and come play a part. Come, let me help the youth and them to grow. Come, let me set up institutions, set up agro-industries, let us build schools. Where's the Rastafari University? We have such high levels of intelligence and inventiveness in our mind. Where is our university? We can't be just hailing Farai and putting on shows and letting that be all we're capable of. We have to be able to build practical institutions of nation building. Is fundamental and crucial. So we need to wake up and become more mature in our thinking and recognize we have to come up on a higher level. We cannot just be noted for putting on shows and singing songs. Yes, that is a waste of means to establish the nation. But we have to be able to give that commitment. Don't say you're doing things for Africa. A lot of people are still raising money for Ethiopia and nothing doesn't reach here. So, we need to be careful. We need to centralize and organize ourselves and be serious. We're talking repatriation now. It's almost 100 years I is as far right now. So where is the movements? What have we established? Most fundamentally, we need to have a Rastafari bank. Because His Majesty, that was the first thing he did, was to establish the Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. In order to show our seriousness, we have to pull our resources together, create a bank, and be invested in certain levels of development that you're constantly turning over, you're sustaining yourself, and you're building wealth. This is fundamental. This is one of the weaknesses of our We don't understand that we have to create wealth, we have to build wealth. We cannot accept poverty. We have to rise ourselves out of that, and there are ways and means. And His Majesty teacher and I cooperative economics. We have to be able to trust one another and work with one another and set the ball in motion.
Ras Tafari. So you've heard straight from Ethiopia. This is not second hand or third hand. This is not we think. This is the elder on the land over 30 years in the struggle front line, from armed struggle in the west to Mount Zion, farming, beat his spear into a plowshare in real life. And we give thanks for him sharing his own story, because that is what this platform is all about. The time has come for the lions to tell our own story, and this is the lion's voice.
Lion voice.
But the Almighty has manifested himself in physical form and was born as Ras Tafari Makonnen. Through hard work and diligence he attained the title of the Chasmatch. When he fought in many wars and was crowned as Ras. By the will of the people he was given the title of Negos, and by destiny Nogus and Agas, the King of Kings. I and I are his children. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we are gonna give Jah thanks and praise. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we gonna free our mental slave. One day we are gonna live better. Read and listen, I see I speech and overstand every letter. One day we are gonna live well. Spread and listen, I see I teach and trap the wicked down the hell. Escape Vatican spell. Escape the brave, I and I are the slave that rebel. Safe in a Zion we will dwell. I see I listen, I see I face while treading as him angel. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we are gonna give Jah thanks and praise. One day we are gonna do where Marco say, take a long journey across the ocean wave. One day we'll do things Ras Tafari way. One day we gonna free our mental slave. One day you're heaven on the earth. Everywhere you search, man a hill I listen, I see I the first. One day the guns will stop burst. One day the preacher will go tell the youth the truth in the church. One day the youths will stop curse. One day the sun will provide the energy for do the work. One day there will be no more pain and hurt. One day we take a aeroplane and splurge.